Black Studies, for history, and the teaching of all ethnic groups, not only at the university, but the K-12 system and across the nation. And I do that, and I rise today once again, as I always do, to try to remind us what history really is. We sometimes have a list of heroes and heroines, and those are very important. But it's also important to recognize what the absence of Black history means. Because when history is not present in one's life, when you don't know who you are, you don't know where you've been, you have very difficult mapping where the future is going to take you. And so as a nation, we spend years and years teaching history, not because our children can't comprehend it, but because we know that in the process of teaching that history, we are creating the American character. We're teaching our children to value America. We're teaching our children to value themselves, but we're also teaching them their potential for greatness, that they are made of great material. And so when you don't have women in your history, when you don't have African Americans in your history, when you don't have Latinos in your history, you're also teaching them that there is no greatness in them. But you're also teaching their friends, who also become the police and the others in the nation, to also not value those individuals too. And so it's not just about that in terms of this is Black History Month, but this is trying to rewrite what we ought to be about in terms of our children. You know, Paulo Freire in Pedagogy of the Press said that when you capture a nation, the first thing you do is you burn their libraries. And I used to wonder why, as a kid, I'd read about the burning of the libraries of Alexandria and places like that. And I didn't understand at the time. But then as I got older and I began to study, I realized that what they were attempting to do was to burn the memory, the greatness of a people that is still now trying to reconstruct their world in terms of their contribution to civilization. And that's what's happening today. We're trying to reconstruct the greatness of our people. You know, recently I studied the history of my father. And I'd always thought that my father came to California looking for a great life for his children. I didn't know that my father came to California because they were going to kill him in Hope, Arkansas, because he refused to bow down. He refused to give his crops up to some white man. He refused to take less for what he was owed. And he never said, yes, sir, no, sir. And therefore, they were looking to kill him. And they had to sneak him out of Hope, Arkansas in the dead of night to come to California. And then eventually they had to sneak our family, the 6 children and my mother, to California 3 months later. That's the history of my family, but it made me very proud when I learned that, because I knew that my father never bowed down despite the limited education he had. And he went back to Hope, Arkansas every 4 years to face the people who wanted to kill him. It made me very proud to know that's why I stand so strong, because he put that in me. But it's important for us to know our history, for our children to understand it, and because it creates in them the ability and the power to do anything. So when we look at our educational system, we look at our judicial system, and what I found consistently in working with young people is they have no knowledge of self. And what we are constantly trying to do is to recreate that in our young people. And that will become critical for us in this floor, to talk about how we educate children, what resources we put into it, and how we create a history of California, a history of this nation, and a history of the world that really reflects the greatness of all of those who have contributed. I challenge each one of us on this floor today, because we are making history in this body. And someday someone will say, what did those folks do? Well, that was the most diverse legislature in the history of California in 2015. What did they do that was so unique, that set a different course for California? That will be the question that will be asked by the children who look at us to inspire them to become great legislators. I also say to my colleagues, the 12 of us, the largest group of African Americans in the Black Caucus in the history of California, what will this divine 12 do that's going to set a tone and a direction for leadership in the African American community that no other body has done before? We have a tremendous challenge. We can come here and be inspired by the walls and the beauty of the floors. But Frederick Douglass, when he was faced with the same challenge with the 4th of July address, and he had the opportunity to forget where he came from, he declared before everyone there, he says, if I forget thee, O Jerusalem, he said, then may my right hand forget her cunning, and may my tongue cleave to the roof of my mouth. I challenge the 12 of us to think likewise, that we have a unique opportunity and a unique responsibility. So history is important, but it's just not the collection of facts and numbers and figures, because we can find that on any computer. It is really the development of character, the development of the people of California, and giving life, purpose, and direction to African American children and others. I ask for your support for ACR 6.
Thank you, Dr. Weber. I will ask Mr. McCarty to close on ACR 6.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to close on this item. Black History Month is a special time for our state, our nation,